Wonderlist conversation. I am Manuela Goyanes. I am the artistic director of Woolly Mammoth Theater, coming to you from my home in Washington, D.C. Woolly's Wonderlist is our new series where I get to sit down and chat with some folks about what is inspiring them, because they are folks that inspire us. We're going to dig into the ideas and influences that have shaped their careers and get their unique perspectives on the year 2020. So today I am really thrilled to be speaking with Taylor Reynolds. That's the crowd that you can't hear, except for me. Taylor is a New York-based director from Chicago. She is one of the producing artistic leaders of the OBIE-winning Movement Theater Company in Harlem, New York City. Just a little bit about the Movement Theater Company. The movement creates an artistic social movement by developing and producing new works by artists of color. They create brave spaces for artists of color to discover and unleash their most authentic selves and tell complex stories of both the everyday and the extraordinary. Woolly folks might remember our tour last fall of the Movement Theater Company's production, astounding, amazing production of What to Send Up When It Goes Down by the incomparable Alicia Harris, directed by Whitney White. And so in addition to being the co-artistic leader of the Movement Theater Company, Taylor also works as a director and a collaborator with companies like Club Thumb, Page 73, Baltimore Center Stage, which I hope you all saw her brilliant production of Richard, Jane, and Dick and Sally by Noah Diaz last season. She's worked with the Signature Theater Company, Ars Nova, MCC, the 24-hour plays. She's got a play coming up with Playwrights Horizons and actually CTG, Center Theater Group in LA, called Tambo and Bones by Dave Harris. I actually got to see your directing work for the first time with Plano, Will Arbery's show, which you did for Club Thumb and got a Drama Desk nomination for Best Director. Hello!
Still don't believe that. Like, it's still awesome. I'm like, I'm done. Not at all. Like, it's great.
I have to shout out also the Carnegie Mellon folks, because you got a BFA from Carnegie Mellon. So anybody who is here watching from Carnegie Mellon, you can make it. You can too make it. So Taylor, thank you for being literally, you're the first one. You're our first Woolly's Wonderlist person.
I'm so excited. It's also great because then there's no pressure of like, oh my gosh, the person last week was so good. You know, it's like, we don't know what this is, so we're going to figure it out together, everybody.
Yeah, it sounds very Woolly, right? Just like experiment, jump into the void. Let's just go ahead in.
Yeah.
I want to start with, what are you drinking? What are you wearing? This is coming from Raja Feather Kelly. I can't take credit for it. This is the Strange Loop reunion special that happened on Facebook, I think it was, and on all the social platforms. And he was actually doing the hosting, and he was like, okay, so what are you drinking? What are you wearing? So thank you, Raja, for that. What are you drinking? What are you wearing, Taylor?
I'm drinking a raspberry seltzer in a mason jar, which is like maybe the most me thing possible. And then I'm wearing a very large, what is like a really extremely oversized shirt that counts as a dress if you just don't wear pants with it. I actually bought this for the opening night of Plano because I felt like a picnic table kind of like maybe Texas vibe, but also was just very like bright and exciting. And also it has pockets, so it had everything you need for an opening night. And now
you didn't know you were going to match my lipstick.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my red lipstick for you.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Thank you.
I am wearing red lipstick, Ruby Woo MAC.
Yes.
Always go to. I'm wearing my hoops, which I had been parted with because I forgot them at home in DC when I went to New York to visit my folks. And so now they are literally not going to leave my ears forever and ever because I felt pretty naked without them.
Yeah, I'm in Chicago right now and I have things that I'm like, as soon as I get back to my apartment, I will be in New York, I will be putting this on my body.
What, like, wait, you have to tell me, like, what are you missing?
I have a pair of overalls that I've actually had since like I was a child, so they don't really fit me, but they've been like my go-to like stay at home work. Like I'm not really wearing clothes, but like I'm wearing pants technically. And I've just like really missed wearing them. And so I just can't wait to go back and just put on my overalls and like sit on my couch and answer emails again.
I understand. I completely understand. I just got back from being in New York for a while, and I just love having my space again, just some space. Although it was really wonderful to see my folks, and it was super safe getting there. We met. I was masked. I did, all of the the tests and everything like that. So it was really, I felt really happy to get to see them. And you're with them right now too. You're with your folks right now, right?
Yeah, I'm with my family right now. And I did the same thing of I wore a mask until I got my test results back, and I stayed away from my family, and they were very understanding, but also they were like, it's fine. I was like, but what if it's not? I also was like, this is just really more for me, of like the consensus is go with the practices of the person who needs the most, or like who feels the least comfortable.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm just going to wear a mask and sit away from you until I got my negative results. And then I was like, now we may hug.
I love it. And now let's hug.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, I wanted to start with some folks have found inspiration this summer and been able to do a lot of different things. Other folks have taken, time away from their artistic practices. So I'm just curious where you are on that spectrum and what you've been up to.
I avoided doing anything other than having the goal of like waking up and getting out of bed in the morning for a while, because that was what I needed to do. But actually in the last month, like since I've been in Chicago, I've worked on a few projects. Namely, one of them is Theater for One, co-artistic director Christine Jones and Jenny Coons. Have this like incredible digital version of the show, of their project that they usually do like in a box with like an actor and one audience member at a time. So now we're doing that digitally. Mm. And there's two groups, or like two sets. And so my group is the second one. And our opening night is actually tomorrow. So, and I got to work with Regina Taylor, which is like, truly like, I'm done. Like I'm done. Thank you, theater. I did it. A dream unlocked. So been doing that and been doing some just like developmental small workshops, which has been really pretty beneficial. And just like starting to figure out the ways that Zoom can actually benefit us as artists and as collaborators, and not trying to feel like, oh, well, everything we do has to be public, or like everything we do people need to know about. It's like, well, no, we can just develop this play because you can gather people on Zoom. But I feel like sometimes if you're doing a Zoom reading or like a Zoom performance of some sort, then it feels like it needs to be this weird, beautiful hybrid between like film and like live experience and theater, and it's just sometimes I think, at least for me, I get too focused on like, oh, people are watching this, rather than like, totally, what are we doing? Who is this helping?
Yeah, well, because it can actually help us still develop the work, create the work. You can actually get some stuff done. Presence. I used to think so much that like my presence was necessary all the time. You know what I mean? And there are different ways to sort of show connection and presence and have that happen. I have been a little bit like, I don't know what the digital space is going to look like for the future, but I'm excited about sort of the opportunities of that. And I cannot believe, I mean, it's just insane to me, actually, that the first commission of my tenure is Amir Nazar Zawabi doing a Zoom play.
Yeah.
I was like, I would have never, like in a million years, ever thought that that was going to be like the first commission of my tenure as artistic director of Woolly Mammoth. But here you have it. Let's just try.
Right. Yeah. But it's also been, I mean, it's also gives kind of wider opportunity. Like I think about like the movement has a program called One Move that we actually created back in like 2016, 2017 as a type of like video or digital platform for artists to respond to issues in a more like in time way, you know, because like theater is great, but like theater takes a long time. And sometimes you just want to talk about things now. And so we actually brought that program back and created like a little tag for like One Move Design By, where we've had 2 rounds of 15 designers each and have commissioned them to make like 2 to 5 minute videos in response to everything happening in our time. So in response to COVID-19, in response to some of our designers are immigrant artists. So in response to not being able to work and needing to be able to prove that you are excellent at working and like what that means. Our second round was a cohort of all Black designers. So responding to the global uprising, responding to anti-racism, responding to racism, responding to just trying to exist as a Black person as multiple pandemics are happening. And we were also like, or if you want to talk about none of that and you want to just like use this as an opportunity to be like, I can focus on art for 5 minutes and not think about everything, then great. And you know, but like, when do you get to work with 15 designers unless you're doing some sort of like huge multi-country operatic experience? So
I was going to say never. I don't know that I've ever worked with that many designers on a project. And I love that idea of rapid response in some way. You are so right that the theater tends to be like 2-3 years behind what it is that's happening. You know, I remember this because when I got to the public, I got there in 2004, and that was when actually the influx of lots of 9/11 plays were happening. So it was like the 2003, 2004, 2005, etc. But like to have something to be able to have resources to give to artists so that they can actually speak to the moment that we're in feels kind of groundbreaking, actually, and very different from what it is that, well, hello, you're building a movement. Like maybe the movement theater company is building a movement. I know, right? You get that all the time. You get that all the time. I'm so sorry to have to, you know.
No, what we really get all the time is like, I love dance. And it's like, we do too, but like social justice movement, not like body movement.
I would love to see you all do a sort of social justice movement dance.
I mean, maybe it'll happen. Like, you know, anything's possible. Our retreat is coming up.
We'll take those fly photos and those videos, like, you know what I mean? You can totally do something. It's like movement, but social justice movement.
I'll promote it.
Yeah, but thank you. I appreciate it. I don't need credit. I was curious about the movement actually, because you all were working with Alicia and Whitney to do a project that was sort of like, I don't know, I guess companion follow-up in concert with the work that you did with What to Send Up. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I was looking it up and I was like, oh my gosh, it's got like a film, there's so many parts of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the entire umbrella is Resilience, a digital initiative, which was co-created by the movement, Alicia and Whitney. And it was generated out of, the movement took some time to really, at the beginning of everything being shut down, we took time just to check in with each other as like people and continue to check in about what our capacity is and like how we wanted to move forward. And for a while, we just wanted to focus on being okay as people. And so when we were beginning to talk about how we wanted to be a part of the digital conversation, or put out some sort of digital experience, we really wanted it to be in response to again, to the like multiple pandemics that are happening, and especially with the news of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and their murders, and we were feeling very like we wanted to be with our community. We wanted to be in a healing space. We wanted to provide a healing space. And we, of course, like being so ingrained in what to send up, we reached out to Whitney and Alicia just to see, what their thoughts were. And Alicia had already actually been working on a What to Send Up resources page on her website, which included this like beautiful page of the love letters to Black people, which have been collected from our 2018 production and from the tour that we did. And then
a lot of them are from DC, actually.
Yeah, so many of them are from DC, because they were so well collected.
We got like 4,000 letters.
Yeah, we have just a wonderful reserve of them, and also people were sending Alicia love letters, and then we set up an email so people could send more, again, like trying to keep it current. And so then that was already happening. And so we were like, okay, great. Well, how can we support what Alicia has already built, instead of being like, well, no, we, want to do something different. We just like, how can we build on the foundation that we have already created? Mm-hmm. And also just like taking the time to, have the 5 of us from the movement and Alicia and Whitney just on Zoom calls weekly for a while was just like really healing in itself, because like,
I was going to say, I would vote for Alicia Harris.
Yeah, right. I just feel like
if she ever wants to run for office, I'm there. I will be her campaign manager.
Yeah, I feel like the one of the things that I'm most focused on in 2020 is people who are interested in checking with each other as people first, and interested in carving out that space of like, I know we were supposed to have this meeting, but actually it just turned into us being people and being like, okay.
Right. Self-care is not just 2 words.
Right.
It is a real practice.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And so just I think being it, and also like knowing that we could take our time, and that we wanted to respond, but also that whatever we put out into the world, again, we wanted to make sure that it was going to be useful and long lasting, and again, like something that people can turn to repeatedly, rather than just being like, here's a list, here's a list of resources that you then have to go further into, and, all of that. And again, like, and also Alicia already had that. So it was like, well, how can we, again, come together to build something? And so we ended up creating love letters to Black people on Instagram, which is an Instagram account where we, again, took the love letters that we collected from all the different productions of our production, and have been posting that. And then we also, Whitney wrote and Alicia directed a short piece or short film video called Soft Light, which is really just about the softness and tenderness of Black people, and just
the beautiful.
And just the opportunity to miss people, of like that we're so isolated in so many different ways, and missing people isn't just centered around those who are no longer with us, like on this earth, like missing people is not being able to hug your mom because you don't want to get her sick, or not being able to see your friends who you used to see at least once a week, and just acknowledging and creating space for that grief of like that we're missing something right now, So let's talk about it. You know, everybody misses someone, so let's talk about it. And so with the resources page, with Soft Light, and with the Love Letters to Black People on Instagram, that's everything that comprises resilience. And that was just what we created through like June, July. And then the movement has been on a break for the month of August to, again, prioritize ourselves as people. And so we'll see what happens with it, you know, next in the fall.
Yeah, it just seems to me like it's so necessary. It's just such a service. And again, like for particularly the Black community who continues to go through murder after murder, state-sanctioned violence. I mean, you know, just, yeah, and then I think of all the Black trans lives that have been lost also on top. Like, it just feels never ending in that way. And so to have like a space where actually there's like radiates positivity and community in a different kind of way, it's such a beautiful thing. And anything we can do to continue to promote it, we will do so. To help on that. I keep thinking about, you know, so many we're going through this right now, right? Theaters are going through this question, like the national uprising against anti-Blackness and racism is happening globally and also in our industry. And I keep looking at, like, to me, the movement is a beacon because, you know, you all have been like non-hierarchical, like centering Black and Indigenous and people of color for a long time. And I'm just curious about when you look around and see what's happening, I bet you're getting a lot of phone calls about how to do it.
Like yes and no. I think we get a lot of calls from the people who know us or from people who've heard about us. And in the sense of like how we run and how we operate. But, you know, I mean, the theaters or the organizations that could be calling us to see how they could be running differently, I don't know how many of them have even gotten to the step of, well, what if we operate differently? You know?
I mean, someone send them this Facebook link and hear what you have to say about the movement and how you all work. So can you talk a little bit about how it is that you work together?
Absolutely. So we run non-hierarchically, like you said. So there are 5 of us who run the company: David Mendizabal, Deidre Harrington, Eric Lockley, and our associate producing artistic leader, Ryan Jobrin. Hi. Shout them out. Yeah. And so we all we run essentially this way instead of, you know, this way, where we all share the same amount of responsibility. We all share the same amount of artistic response. So, you know, we're doing everything from making the e-blasts and scheduling our Facebook posts to deciding what artists we want to work with and reaching out to funders to fund the artists that we want to work with. And so a lot of it is, a lot of our meetings, or all of our meetings really, are just about consensus and understanding that no one's opinion or no one holds more weight than anyone else. Like, we all feel like you can say whatever you want and then understand if we don't do what you suggested, it's nothing personal. It's just, you know, thinking about not only even just what's best for the company as like us running, but what is going to be best for our artists and what's best for our community. Because we obviously like love running the movement, but also understand that it's not about it's about what we want to see on stage, in the sense that you know, we come from different racial and ethnic backgrounds and want to feel represented on stage in all of our different intersecting identities, and also understand that it's not just about our individual identities seeing that. You know, it's not just about me as like a biracial Black woman being like, I need to see the story of a biracial Black woman, because like I can't watch, you know, a story about this person because I can't relate. You know, it's about finding the universality within the specificity of storytelling of our artists and of people of color. So that was like that's a very beautiful way of not talking about how we operate practically, which is like our meetings are 2 hours, and we also, you know, we're all friends, so it just takes so long to talk about anything because then we just start talking about other stuff.
I know, you know, it makes me think that like a lot of theater companies that start, you hear about this ensemble sort of ethic that happens, and then it grows bigger and somebody sort of starts to take it on, and it's a real conscious choice to actually say, no, we are going to operate with equity around the table, no matter what. And, you know, I don't know, it's really hard sometimes because the process can be painstaking, I am sure. But it also means that you have a lot of amazing ideas and a brain trust and actual trust around that table that a lot of organizations would envy and should be calling you to find out how to actually, you know, operate in this moment. I was curious about like how you balance like producing and directing and stuff. Is it really a different half for you? Do you put it on and off? Like, how does it?
Yeah, it's tough for me because everybody at the movement is an artist in various ways. You know, like I'm a director and a producer, like Eric is a writer and an actor and like a filmmaker and all, you know, so we all have these different avenues that we go down, which I think like plays, I think that's also another important thing about our structure is that we kind of come together to like form the Captain Planet of we, you know, we all have like our we all have our different like things or like our different strengths that our ring holds to come together to like make the whatever it is that we're making.
I hope somebody put the like link to Captain Planet in the chat.
I could sing the song, but I won't. But, you know, but I think that's another. That is what being willing to come with a strength and bring it as an offering. I think is what makes our model successful for us, and is how we think about bringing in people, and just being very like clear and honest about how we operate. You know, even like with Woolly, we were like, hello, there are 5 of us. You will be speaking to 5 of us. We will appoint 2 people. So if you have simple questions, ask them, but just know you will be talking to 5 of us. And we all have equal weight and say. And
that's great.
And I think that translates into how I operate as a director, in that, like, I understand that I am like in charge of the room and that like I am, you know, steering the ship, but I have an expectation of everyone who is in the room to be paying attention, you know, and to be voicing their opinions and voicing their thoughts. Because like I don't want to do it alone. Like I could, and I could, you know, come in with like vision or whatever. Though to be fair, the playwrights that I tend to work with are highly brilliant and opinionated and have like very specific ideas or no idea.
Very diplomatic.
Like, yeah. I mean, they know who they are. Know it. But it's I think it's because I'm so used to working so collaboratively as a producer that I just expect it like across the board in theatrical spaces, and like honestly like really across my life, just in thinking about like like my life as like an activist and a facilitator, it just all like mashes together. And even being home, it just makes sometimes talking to my family, they get so sick of me because I'm just like using like I statements and I'm really wanting to frame the conversation, and they're like, can you please go somewhere? Like,
I need to talk to you about the impact of my words and actions.
Right. And I'm like, I understand the impact. It is not what I intended, but I understand, and they're just like, can you just thank you, but shut up and go away.
Yeah. Right.
But in like a very practical way, it is very working on Plano and working on Richard and Jane and Dick and Sally with like two of the like greatest women, Maria Stryer and Stephanie Ibarra, who both at like different points have told me like, you can just wear your artist hat. Like, you don't have to worry about this like producing thing, like we got it. And I was just like, oh, right. But it, and it just came, it didn't come from a place of like questioning or wanting to know what's going on. It's just like, oh, I know how to do this. I can help, and like, I come from a kind of like theater background where, like it was self-producing of like, I'll do whatever it takes. Like, do you need help?
That's a huge strength. That's a huge strength that you know those things, but it's also wonderful when you can actually focus on the art that you're making.
Yeah, it's awesome. I was like, oh, I don't have to think about marketing? Great. I won't at all.
Well, you just post it on your Facebook and then you can go back to directing it.
Like, the poster is pretty. That's what I care about.
Awesome. I have a question that I need to ask you about a line in your bio.
Oh, yes, please.
Which, okay, so in your bio on your website, it says that you, that quote, she tends to get a bit spooky in reference to your own work. Could you expand a little bit on that idea?
Yeah, I just like to work on scary plays. And like scary in the plays that have like a horror thriller undertone to them. And I think I was thinking about that because I was looking at my website because I've needed to update it for months and I just haven't. But I was looking at my bio and I was like, what was I thinking when I wrote that? And I think it was partially because like Plano is such just like a scary, strange, weird play. And there's like a faceless ghost that's never really explained. And I mean, so much of it is unexplained, which is like why I loved it so much. And I think that me as a person, something I'm like talking about a lot in therapy these days is that I am just like afraid of everything. Like, my driving force in my deepest heart of hearts is fear, and I'm working on it. I'm okay. But I
too productive.
Right, exactly. I'm just like always going. And I'm very just aware of everything all the time. And I think in the work that I'm drawn to, that fear just manifests in different ways of like reading a play that is highly theatrical or that is like grandiose or that is just, whether it's like character relationships, whatever, that there's just something in there that really terrifies me, both like as an audience member of like, oh, that would be scary to see, but also just as an artist and as a person of like, oh, I have no freaking idea how I would do that. All right, I guess I got to do it to see. It's like this kind of like exposure therapy, I think that
I have something similar. For me, it's shame. Shame is a really great motivator.
Yeah,
it's such a terrible thing, but like this is how I ran the New York Marathon. I got in the lottery and I told everybody that I got in, and so I had to do it to save face. And now I can say I ran the New York Marathon.
Yes, I'm like all about using these like less than positive, so to speak, emotions or driving forces, and just like using them to do positive or like beneficial things in life. Because like my fear is not going to go away, especially because like pandemic global uprising, like a general rise in crime according to like the news report. Like,
no, but I believe this. I believe, like, I think that part of the thing that is, you know, there's this thing right now people are talking about is like toxic positivity, where it's just like basically everybody is like, you know, coming from a place of like, let's be positive together and that kind of stuff. And even some of the stuff that is like the sort of law of attraction stuff, all about positive thinking. What's hard about that and is that it's not like there's not those other emotions. And so how do we actually say, and I actually feel like what you're talking about in terms of plays is like, we crack open some of those. It's not all positive, but we crack them open to sort of like jostle with them, to wrestle with them, to think about them, to live with them, and to understand our relationship to them. Like we have to be able to like befriend, tussle with those kinds of things. Like fear and shame are real.
You sound just like my therapist.
Maybe this is another calling for me at some point. Maybe this is what I have to do. I want to get to a question that that feels important, which is, you know, what is something that you wish someone told you when you were younger?
Yeah, I wish someone told me that new play development, like the process of new play development, was a thing that you could do. Like as a young person, you could develop plays that don't exist. And like, that's great. I think I was so focused, just from like, you know, my experiences in high school and then going to Carnegie Mellon and like not really knowing what a director did. I was so focused and like guided in, oh, this play exists, or like this is a classic, or this is a new play that was published, you know, 5 years ago. And I didn't really have an opportunity to work with a playwright developing, like writing a play in the current time. I didn't have that opportunity until like a year or two after I graduated from college. And it was about like community and about everybody figuring something out at the same time, and there being so much space to succeed or fail or try things, and then the next day be like, cool, so that is all cut and is now totally different. And like that kind of just like being in the present moment, like way of existing was really great. And I had not experienced that. Like I loved directing plays that existed and still do, but it's just a very different process because we're like, oh, well, this play, we know what this play is, you know?
I started laughing because talk about fear when you come in and you throw everything away.
Oh my God. I love it. I'm like, cut it. Cut it, rewrite it, whatever, you have it. What are words?
What are words? I mean, all right, so I want to ask, have you had can you think of an experience like that where you were like, is this going to work? I have to throw everything away. The show is going to start in, you know, a week.
Multiple experiences. I mean, like there is a scene in Richard and Jane and Dick and Sally that Noah and I still talk about that we're just like, we gotta figure this scene out. We were gonna figure it out in New York, but then it got canceled. So now we just have to like figure it out. But you know, there was like definitely stuff in Plano. There have even been, I was even doing a play by Margot Connolly, just at the American Academy of the Dramatic Arts. And you know, she's still, or she was at Juilliard at the time. And so it was a new play that hadn't really been done. And we were just working with these like wonderful conservatory students. And we were like, okay, so I know it's more about your acting than the like rewriting, but also I gotta rewrite this a little bit, or I gotta like tweak this moment. So like, welcome to new play development, y'all. Which was like really, it's really great. And I think, again, it's like very terrifying. And I can like, I know as for my perspective as like an artistic leader, and I can only imagine for you, of like having to take that leap of faith and like be, you know, we walk into a room to see a run and it's like very different, and you're like, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it is definitely a leap of faith. The thing I keep thinking about is actually, as you were talking about Richard, Jane, Dick, and Sally, it made me think about how important it is to have second and third and fourth productions of plays, because it's not like the world premiere might not crack it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The first moment that you get into a room, like it's still a piece of art. The process is just as important. And it's not like Noah isn't going to continue to start to keep digging in and thinking about that piece. It's not just basically like one and done. And, you know, our industry is so focused on like the world premiere, and then like plays don't continue on. And I feel really happy that, you know, Howard before me at Woolly really actually embraced being able to go back into something, you know, and do that second or third production that like, then the playwright is like, right. Yeah, this is what I needed to do in that moment, or this is what I was trying to do. But it's hard. It's really tough.
Yeah.
To make it. I know. I wanted to ask you how you have found joy in the past few months, either as an artist or an audience member. And then I'm going to get to my lightning round questions.
Okay. I think that the place where it's like easiest for me to find joy is where I can identify practices or moments where like I'm taking care of myself in ways that I did not for like years before. Of like, I've started exercising regularly, and like stretching, and like finally releasing the literal years of tension from my body. And I'm like, oh wow, that does a lot. And then, you know, like actually making space for the new tension that arises from existing in 2020. And also just like actually making food for myself, and like making food that
nourishment. Yeah.
And finding joy in that, because like eating for me is very much like I eat to put things in my body. I'm usually standing, and I'm usually like answering emails or doing something else.
Same.
You know, and so I think it's just really focusing on, as much as possible, doing one thing at a time, or like giving my attention to whatever I'm doing in the present moment. Or if I'm thinking about something else, just like going to do that other thing, to just like, and also I think most of all, what's giving me joy is like the practice of releasing myself from feeling like I need to be productive all the time. Like, even if it's like, literally this morning I was standing and like staring out the window. I just like wasn't doing anything, and we had our call in a little bit, and I was like, oh, I gotta go get ready for that call. And I was like, what do you need to do? Like, you need to open your computer and click on Zoom, which takes like 4 seconds. So like, just stand here and look out the window, because like it's something I won't be able to do once I go back to New York, you know, of like looking out into a residential like yard, you know, like I'm gonna go back to New York and it's people like partying at 2 a.m. So appreciate it while it's here. So
I mean, we force ourselves to be so, yeah, where does that come? I mean, I guess it's our culture, I guess, you know?
Yeah, I feel like, at least in my experience, which is probably just the thing that I put on myself, but like I just am so booked consistently, whether it's like paid work or like theatrical work, but there's just like too many things back to back to back. And then I just don't actually leave time to like breathe or focus, you know, of like, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to sit and like meditate for 10 minutes, but like, I got to do it right in between these two things. And it's like, well, it takes, you know, 10 minutes to like begin to decompress. So then by the time you meditated, you're like, it's over and you didn't get anything.
You know, I'm wondering whether or not you know, being a freelance artist is part of that, because you sort of have to, your livelihood is tied to what you're doing. So it's like, you know, it makes it hard. It makes it like you sort of have to make sure that your dance card is full.
Right.
Movement theater company. So your dance card is full, because, you know, you don't know when that next thing is going to happen, or you don't know when it's going to dry up, or you don't know. I mean, so many freelance artists are struggling with that right at this moment, you know? Yeah, I'm so glad that you were able to stare out the window, and it makes me think that I need to do more of that, and I'm going to take that as inspiration, for sure. I want to get to the lightning round. So these are questions that we're going to ask every Wonderlist participant, and we're going to be sharing them out at the end of the series to give folks a giant list of amazing recommendations. So are you ready?
Yes, I think.
Okay, cool. So what are you reading?
So right now I'm reading, I'm looking at it. Right now I'm reading Wow, No Thank You by Samantha Irby, which is great. And then I'm also reading How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi.
Yes, really good. I haven't read Samantha Irby's book. How far are you into it?
I'm like about halfway through. It's a series of essays and like commentaries just about life and many things. And she's just like so funny and so.
She's hilarious. If you all don't know Samantha Irby, go and check her out. She's hilarious. She's so amazing. Yeah. And then obviously Professor Kendi and what he's doing and creating in the world, I mean, is just like, is beyond. What are you watching?
The Office, always.
The Office?
All the time.
Like, how many times have you seen it?
I don't even know anymore at this point.
Really? Do you start at the beginning and go to the end and then start again, or is it just like smattering?
No, I watch it in smatterings. But my boyfriend hadn't seen it, so we're working our way through. Like, we're on season 8 of 9 now, so we started it like at the beginning of the shutdown, and so I'm working my way through that. But like, I watch it at least every other day, and I just watch like random episodes. So
what is it about The Office?
It's just,
is it John Krasinski?
A little bit. It used to be, but now I think it's just like comforting, and I think it's just it's because like I've watched Parks and Rec so many times that I can quote it, and then now it's become The Office that I you know, and it's just, I think it's just these like references and just like actors that like I just really think are so great, and like I really love Mindy Kaling. So
oh my God. And you know, and it does actually like talk about self-care and joy and loosen it up. It's hilarious.
Yeah. And it's just, I think it's just like something that is easy, and I know I can watch it, or I don't feel bad about shutting it off in the middle because like I know what happens, versus like trying to watch something new right now is still a little tricky for me sometimes, because I'm like, isn't there something else that I could be doing rather than watching this new thing? Like, but you know, that again, it's like
that productivity. It's always going to come back at you. It's always going to be like,
no.
do more, do more, do more. Yeah, go stare out the window. That's what you need to be doing. What are you listening to?
I'm listening to listen to Bad Bunny all the time because he gets me hype, and like I just follow him on Instagram. And then there's a podcast called Welcome to Night Vale, which is so scary. I mean, it's scary.
Oh, I don't know it.
It's very scary and very funny and very in line with like my aesthetic.
Wait, have you seen What We Do in the Shadows?
Yes.
I mean, that is so your aesthetic.
Yes, exactly.
Did you see the original movie?
Yeah. I've seen the movie and the TV show, and both I was like, yes, this is
so good. I haven't. What about List of Spookies? I haven't seen that one. Is it good?
I've watched like one episode, which was incredible. But I've heard it's very good, but I have yet to watch all of it.
It also seems like maybe that's on the tip, but who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, who are you following?
The Nap Ministry.
Yes, yes.
It's like is so great, and it's they use the practice of rest as resistance, but it's not, it's not just about taking naps. It is about resting and divesting from capitalism and divesting from the continuously productive mindset. And so because I can't really like actually nap in the day, but just taking a practice of like stopping and laying down for 20 minutes and like kind of just letting my mind go where it needs to go has actually opened up so much more space that I'm then able to like, then if I pick up How to Be an Anti-Racist, I'm much more able to process and like digest everything rather than like, I should read this book.
Well, this is the thing. This is about art, like creating art and thinking about art, trying to actually have sort of a point of view of it. You actually do need to let your mind wander and just see where it goes, and allow yourself to settle on something and then turn it over and think about it again and actually digest it. The sort of go, you can't, I don't know, it's just so easy to stay surface, you know? And making art is like much deeper than that. Okay, so last question. One life-changing thing you've learned so far in 2020?
I mean, I feel like we've already hit on it, which is to pull away from this constant need for productivity. I think also because I just have more time now, because I'm not traveling from place to place, like traveling takes so much time. Like I knew it, but then like having that time and like not I could have like 4 Zoom calls in a day, but because I don't need to go anywhere between them, I can still have, I'm like, even 15 minutes between calls now feels so long sometimes.
I know.
Because I'm like, well, what do I do? Like, I'm going to close the Zoom call, but then I'm just going to like go check my email and then, get on another Zoom call. And so, breaking myself from this idea that like time needs to be filled, to shout out another book I read earlier this year. It's a book called How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell.
Okay. I haven't read that. I haven't read it, but I'm going to put it on my, it's really good.
And she's an artist and like a professor, I believe. And so it's just about like sitting and like looking just to look, and not like, going to the river for like inspiration or going to like think, but just like sitting there and seeing what you notice. Like I remember I went to Riverside Park like 2 months ago or something, and I was still reading the book, and there was some chapter about like just looking up and seeing what you see. And I literally looked up and like there were like squashes floating in the river because we're by the Fairway grocery store. So I don't know how they ended up there, but I was like, if I had not just like looked up to be like, oh, right, I never look up anymore. I was like, I would have missed squashes floating down the river.
There's a haiku in that. There's some haiku that you got to write.
This is not, I was like, there's no like deeper meaning of this. It's just like a funny thing to see that like is now a cherished memory.
Imprinted in your brain. Yeah, exactly. I love that. Thank you for sharing this, and thank you for participating in the Wonderlist. I want to tell people where folks can find you online. Will you plug your website, your socials, stuff like that?
Yeah, so you can visit the Movement's website at themovementtheatercompany.org. It's theater with an R-E. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at TMTC Harlem. And then I am on Instagram as Treynold. It's Treynold, and Twitter as Reynaldo Taylor. I'm not on Twitter much. You can figure it out. The person who is actually named Reynaldo Taylor, I'm sure, is so annoyed with me. And then my website is iamtaylorreynolds.com. Again,
you are.
Again, it has not been updated. I'm working on it. So check in like a few weeks.
Rock and roll. I really want to thank you so much for your time tonight, Taylor, and thank you to everyone watching on Facebook for tuning in to the very first Woolly Wonderlist conversation. Please make sure to come back on September 15th, where I will be joined by not one, but two incredible artists, Lady Dane Figueroa Edidi and Ryan Haddad. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
All righty, so those of you who are on Zoom, so we just ended the Facebook portion. We're gonna take 5 minutes. I'm going to actually make myself an alcoholic drink, and we will be back to do the after party with you shortly. So it's 6:02. Taylor, you cool if we come back at like 6:08?
Yeah, that's great.
All right, see you soon.